It's tough to follow Gil Penalosa at any time, I think, and it's particularly tough because in this instance he has said a number of the things that I intend and intended to speak about. So in some ways it's actually easier. He's said it better than I can, and you guys can just continue to digest your lunches without paying too much attention. What I'll try to do is move forward talking about some of the items that he began to speak about, which is why it is important for us to consider constructing and reconstructing a culture that is not solely dominated by cars. Not that cars are a bad thing. I like cars. I grew up, I'm one of the people, who was it who got his license the day after he turned 16? Somebody this morning. It might have been Trace. I'm one of those, my 16th birthday boy. I love driving. I still love driving, even although I no longer own a car. Anyways, when we were talking about the business opportunities that arise out of cycling, I had a little bit of difficulty keeping my remarks and my thoughts just to talking about business and the business impacts from cycling, because to me it's larger than that. It's actually about a multimodal world, which several people have spoken about and alluded to earlier today, and certainly Gil did. And I think that that's one of the ways that we need to think. I'm going to frame a couple of things as we go. If I can get that to go. Green button, right? What am I? Green button? Okay, so where I'm going to go with this is to talk about the imperative that arises that leads us to need to think about a lower carbon footprint. And some of that, of course, is strictly because of the climate change issues. I'm not going to be lecturing people about that at any length here today. I think most people in the room are well aware of them. But one of the things that people may not yet know, because I only just heard it recently, there's currently 4.5% more water on in the planet's atmosphere than there was 50 years ago. That's with less than a degree of warming under our belts. And we know that we have over a degree already in the pipeline, currently stored in the oceans, but that'll get forced out by the oceans fairly soon. We don't know when. That's a significant number because it is creating these vast hydrological events that we're already experiencing. And you really have to not be reading a paper or looking online or listening to the news to realize that we are experiencing floods and droughts on an unprecedented global scale, and it is everywhere. We're not hearing about it everywhere. We're not hearing about the events in Vietnam, for example. We hardly heard anything about the events in Brazil. We hardly heard anything about the fires in Mexico. But in fact, we have fires and floods happening all over the planet, and in the last 18 months, it has been on a scale that is upsetting, for example, the insurance industry, CAA, people understand this one, to an extent that most people don't yet realize the impact that it's going to have. So, impacts coming because of carbon depletion and carbon costs. There are some obvious economic opportunities that arise out of this. One of them would be more transit. Others would be things like ride shares and car co-ops and trains and light rail, bike shares. There's all sorts of things that smart people and even not brilliant people are already working on all over the planet. Gil has given us some indication of some of them. Lots of the people in this room are already working on that. We don't need to talk about those. What I wanted to do was talk a little bit about some of the ways to think about things that are not the obvious economic opportunities that are arising. You know, we built a car culture about 100 years ago. It really got steam about 50 years ago, maybe 60, depending on what markers you want to count. But we consciously built it. all right? Most of you in the room know that we had a great public transit system in North America, okay? We had light rail down in every major city, and the only reason it went away was because it was bought up and destroyed. It was a conscious business act in order to create economic opportunities for another mode of transportation. All's fair in love and war, but what's important to remember is that we had functioning communities that were built around those transportation modes, and the influence of the car culture changed those functional communities, all right? So we need some new ways to think about what's going to work for us. What kind of products and services that are going to use low carbon fuels, that are going to lower costs and achieve social good at the same time. People earlier today made reference to the obesity crisis that we face. We also face a financial crisis. We also happen to face a climate change crisis, kind of all at the same time. So the principles that I propose that we need to think about for a new economy are those that are local, because they are by definition a lower carbon footprint. They are efficient and make use of new technologies, such as the one that you see there for calling up real-time ride shares. They are flexible, and they contribute to a healthy society. Repurposing how we do things, including repurposing cars so that they have a lower carbon footprint, is going to be one of the great tasks that we have. The cars are not going to go away, nor should they. Okay, electric cars are not going to be a major part of our society for some time. Best guess is 20 years, probably more likely 30 in any real numbers. So in the meantime, we've got a huge auto inventory that needs to be dealt with, and it needs to be dealt with efficiently. We need to be thinking about how to repurpose infrastructure in ways that are pragmatic, that are efficient, that are low cost. This is a slide from Cuba, where they've been repurposing things for a long time. And anybody who's ever been there knows the delight of seeing, really kind of perfect looking 1959 cars still driving around and doing really well. We need to be thinking out of the box, okay? So what are the new kinds of economic opportunities that are going to exist precisely because of the crisis that we're in? And I'll talk to you a little bit about our bicycle valet just because it's one that I know about, and it fits all of those criteria for being pragmatic, local, flexible, contributing to a healthy society. In the urban environment, you need flexible use of space. We saw all that stuff about streets that Gil was talking about. You don't want to be building a whole lot of even permanent bike parking if you need to be able to reuse that space the next day for something else, all right? So the bicycle valet uses portable infrastructure. It works to support the relief of congestion around big events, so it decreases the carbon footprint of cars because it's decreasing congestion. It's also supporting families for whom the car is expensive and transit can be unwieldy, okay? Because in the bicycle valet, when we're taking in bicycles, we also take in the chariots, we also take in the diapers, we also take in the extra juice that the kids are going to need later in the afternoon, and so on and so forth. So it's a very family-friendly kind of service. It provides fabulous views for its sponsors. CAA, thank you very much, a wonderful sponsor. MEC, another one. Translink, another one. I'm not sure if we've got anybody else this year just yet, but nonetheless, those are the major ones this year. And it contributes to the greening of events in documentable ways. So it's making a couple of contributions to the climate change and environmental issues that we face. It's low-tech, it involves almost no infrastructure, and it requires very little capitalization. Those are the kinds of criteria that I think we want for niche enterprises that are going to help us make transitions into a lower carbon footprint economy over time. Okay, they're not all going to come immediately. It's not certainly that this is, I'm framing this as something that's an example of the type of things that need to occur on a much bigger scale with people who are much smarter than we are, but as nonetheless a useful transition kind of enterprise while we're all figuring out what comes next, because frankly, we don't know, I don't think, what comes next. Another very brief moment. So there's a picture of the bicycle valet. Another brief moment on a secondary enterprise that doesn't relate directly to bicycles, which is providing niche transportation solutions to seniors. So this is for people who are still physically able to get around, probably not on a bicycle. They're too frail for transit. They're past driving, and yet we know that it is of significant value if we can keep them in their communities and keep them buying locally and have them age in place. It's good for them and it's good for the community. So the Seniors Transportation Access and Resources Initiative satisfies needs that neither public transit nor private providers can do, makes the transition from driving to a multimodal world safe and affordable, and supports seniors aging in place. That's what a local economy should look like. You ought to be able to service all of your needs through your neighborhood by walking, cycling, and where necessary, a little shuttle bus if you're too old and frail to get there on your own. People here who understand transit-oriented development, who understand complete streets and complete communities will be very familiar with this. And again, what we're putting in place in STAR is a transitional kind of enterprise. 20 years from now, it shouldn't be necessary anymore, okay? 30 years maybe. Ultimately, what we need to be doing is reformulating the way we think about costs and benefits to include real carbon costs, okay? And as soon as we do that, the things that are nice to have start to look like a common sense way to run an economy.
Thanks for the opportunity, and I want to thank the organizers of this conference for having this dialogue, very innovative, to talk about how we can best move forward, and hopefully my comments will add to that. Downtowns are best equipped to embrace shifts in modes of transportation. Downtowns have a history of embracing change and adapting. Accessibility into downtowns by all modes of transportation is a pillar of successful downtowns around the world, including Vancouver. However, currently businesses in downtown Vancouver are dealing with high property taxes at a disproportionate ratio of about 4.5 to 1 in comparison to what residents pay. Increasing rents due to a tight market with limited supply coming on stream in the near future. A tripling of Translink's paid parking tax from 7% to 21%, plus HST added to this, making the tax 35.2%, the highest of its kind in North America. An increase in cross-border shopping, and increasing competition from U.S. retailers looking to expand into Canada because of our economy, or because our economy has outperformed the U.S. Our dollar is strong, and we typically have higher sales per square foot. And now, as a result of new separated bike lanes, there's been major changes and interruption to traffic patterns throughout the core. The net loss of 170 on-street parking spots on Hornby Street alone, longer commute times by car due to lack of right-hand turns in the CBD, and the loss of a lane of traffic along 3 major arteries, Broadbridge, Hornby, and Dunsmuir Streets. This is the reality for businesses in downtown Vancouver. In the wake of these changes to the transportation network, there are winners and there are losers. A number of our business members are losing as a result. In particular, small independent companies that don't have the luxury of a large corporate infrastructure behind them to support them. Contrary to what some people believe or espouse, 9 out of 10 employers within the DVBI area, which is 90 blocks of the Central Business District and downtown South, in effect, the majority of the downtown, have 20 or less employees. If we drill down a little bit further into that, 6 out of 10 of these employers are classified as micro, less than 5 employees. And 3 out of the remaining 10 are small employers with between 5 to 20 employees. We're not Toronto, we're not Calgary in terms of being a headquarter center. So don't get me wrong, we get it. We know the sea change is underway and we need to get behind it. As an organization, we were extremely supportive of the construction of the Canada Line, and we know how important it is in terms of getting people to and from downtown. We're one of the first and continuing sponsors of the Vancouver Area Cycling Coalition's Bike to Work Week, and we're a financial sponsor of VACC's new Discover Downtown by Bike touring program. And we were a partner and still a partner with the city during the Olympics and the past 2 summers to open Granville Street to pedestrian-only access and activities. We get it. Our businesses get it. Many of our business owners are cyclists. They support cycling. But you cannot make these type of major changes to a city's transportation network in a piecemeal approach to suit a 3-year election cycle. We suggest we need to slow down the process and bring businesses along so they can prepare for the change. What do I mean by this? Well, businesses plan for the long term. They make long-term commitments. They sign long-term leases for commercial space. They strategically and purposely choose their location based on many factors. Access to their business for customers and employees is a major consideration in establishing and successfully running that business. For most, on-street parking and commercial loading in front of or near their store fits with their type of business and their customer profile. In the case of Hornby Street, for example, many of those businesses pick that location because of the convenience of on-street parking. You simply can't take away parking and access from businesses and provide no other options. Nor can you provide businesses with just weeks to find other options. And in all frankness, you can't tell them to start marketing to cyclists on the turn of a dime. It all takes time. So part of the solution is what we did 10 years ago in developing Vancouver's downtown transportation plan. It involved input from numerous stakeholders over a long period of time. Painted bike lanes were included in that plan with very little pushback from many of the stakeholders because it did not create winners and losers. That plan has served downtown well for the past decade. We suggest that separated bike lanes or enhancements to pedestrian access or changes in traffic patterns or any kind of changes to the transportation network need to be done holistically as part of an overall plan. Just take a little bit of a breather here.
I know how you feel.
I know that the City of Vancouver has begun its consultation process for creating the next citywide transportation plan. We'll be part of that process and encouraging our members to be as well. We wish for a robust and inclusive discussion on all aspects of the plan. We wish that the process doesn't get hijacked by a narrow focus on separated bike lanes because of their recent contentious implementation. Furthermore, we strongly suggest that the business impacts of separated bike lanes or other changes to the transportation network need to be taken into consideration at the outset, very similar to environmental impact assessments that are done before approvals are granted. The Canada Line would have been a good example of that in recent history. So back to our current situation. There is a business impact study of the downtown separated bike lanes underway, just as we speak. Deadline's coming up this Friday for businesses to provide their input. Ourselves and 3 other organizations and the City of Vancouver are active participants in the study. Thankfully, and much credit to the city for footing the bill for the study. And the consortium of consultants have been contracted to do the study that will be completed late next month. So the businesses, or actually all the stakeholders, are being asked for input on the bike lanes, and there's 2 control streets as well being examined. So that survey includes street level businesses, upper level businesses, customers, employees, commercial property owners, and the general public via an omnibus survey. Maybe some of you in your room have actually participated in that survey. So in conclusion, we're not looking in the rearview mirror, we're looking ahead and over the handlebars for the following. The results of the current business impact study and City Council's willingness to make changes as required based on sound research. We want to be involved and engaged in a meaningful way in the upcoming formulation of the next citywide transportation plan, and we want to be part of a dialogue on how all modes of transportation can not only coexist but thrive in our downtown. So thank you again for the opportunity.
Again, my name is Lorenzo Mele, and I represent the ACT Canada, Association for Commuter Transportation of Canada. I also work for the town of Markham in their engineering department. And on behalf of ACT Canada, I really want to thank the CAA, BCAA, all the conference organizers for inviting us here to be part of the conference. And we hope that this collaborative opportunity materializes into something more over time. Green button. Okay, so just a quick overview. I'd like to give you an appreciation of what transportation demand management is, a quick overview of ACT Canada, our Sustainable Mobility Network. We have membership across the country, and then getting into sort of the support for cycling in the private sector as well as the public sector, and then finally just a quick snapshot of what's happening around integration into public travel management systems, information systems that are occurring real quick. Okay, so ACT Canada, Sustainable Mobility Network. It was launched in 2001 by a core group of TDM coordinators. These are people that are employed in engineering departments, planning departments across the country. And we saw a real change in the mid-90s where lots of recommendations to start doing things around transportation demand management started to materialize in actual hiring of people in the late 80s and late 90s into 2000, 2001. A group of us, about 15, got together and said, we're feeling lonely in our offices, we need to get together and collaborate. And we formed this association, and today we have close to 3,000 members, partners across the country that are working specifically on transportation demand management. What's important about this is that TDM really creates an opportunity for other people, other disciplines to get involved in the transportation discussion, the transportation debates, other than transportation engineers and transportation planners. So it's an opportunity for public health officials as well as not-for-profit organizations. So that multidisciplinary approach, I think, is something that really appeals to people. And at this point, there's no membership fees, open access to all the information and materials that we prepare, and really is a priority on networking, collaboration, this information exchange. And probably the key thing that we've done is been able to take away those collaborative opportunities and turn them into formal partnerships. So in 2001, we developed some language around TDM to get people to understand what this was. The help of people like Jeff Noxon in Ottawa, so that the recycling people wouldn't have one on us. We developed the wheel below that chart. But really TDM is about where, how, when, why people travel. And that interrelationship between land use, transportation networks, and more importantly, how the systems are used. So in 2001, last year, we went through a bit of a rethink, sort of an evolution, everybody that's really involved in TDM. And you'll see on the right-hand side is the Sustainable Mobility Wheel, and just a representation of where this thinking is going in terms of TDM professionals. So again, networking, capacity building. We host an annual conference. You'll note that in 2011, the conference will be here in Vancouver. Translink are one of our sponsors, one of the local hosts. We're increasing partnerships, as I mentioned before, increasing attendance at these conferences, as well as with some of the information and workshops that are put together over the years. And in 2011, we're planning a cross-country workshop series for planners specifically. So getting the principles of TDM, sustainable mobility, embedded deeply into the planning profession, the engineering profession, is something that the association is keen to do. Professional development in terms of different materials and resources that are needed to create a different dialogue around transportation. And this idea of sustainable mobility is something that's very important, but people need the tools to understand how to integrate TDM into development approvals and so on. Knowledge exchange, we've even got a little clip there on Canucks fans and Leafs fans. What's interesting is that a lot of Leafs fans have jumped on the bandwagon now, and I'm one of them, which is good. And then, information sharing. Let's not reinvent the wheel. We have a real great network of people across the country, from Halifax all the way here to Vancouver and Victoria. And then finally, that social networking. And a big part of what we're trying to do is connect people with one another, but also to have some fun while we're doing this. Okay, so let's shift gears and look at the business case around supporting cycling from the public sector standpoint. Really what we're trying to do is improve the choices and the options that people have to move around our cities and our communities. We're trying to contribute to a wide range of municipal sustainability objectives. Over lunch we were talking about sustainability, and I think that the conclusion that we've all come to is that it's a hard handle to describe to residents, but really what's meaningful for residents is their quality of life. Their quality of life erodes because of traffic issues, because of the lack of facilities to go out and recreate or ride bicycles. Then we feel that at the municipal level, and councillors and so on respond. We're maximizing the value of all of these multi-billion-dollar transit investments that are occurring in places like Toronto and across the country, places like Vancouver as well. And we're looking at other cities as well. The Copenhagen examples, they're important, but I think that the message that we've been getting over the last 5 or 8 years or so is that, yeah, we're unique here, as Gil was saying over lunch. And so we do need to have made in Canada, made in Vancouver, made in Toronto type solutions. And then finally, really, again, improving public health and quality of life. So this is why the public sector is interested in something like cycling. So how is it being supported? Well, right from our official community plans through our transportation master plans, cycling, active transportation is becoming a very, very important part of that. Capital Works programs are including cycling facilities. When you're creating an overpass over a large highway, adding another 1.5 meters to 2 meters of structure isn't that significant in the overall scheme of the project, and it's something that is being accepted today. Zoning, land development policies, really simple things. So making those end-of-trip facilities for people, the showers, the change rooms, all of those things are becoming requirements today. Automobile parking supply reductions. In a place like Toronto and the Greater Toronto Area in general, the providing parking at the levels that we state in our parking bylaws is becoming cost prohibitive to the types of development that we would like to see in our communities, the multi-residential type development. So there's got to be a relaxation around parking supply requirements, and one of the ways to mitigate that is through the provision of better transit services and improving that cycling mode split, walking to and from homes and the places that people need to get to. Bicycle parking requirements, something that's seemingly simple, but when someone arrives at a destination, they need a useful place to park their bicycles. Participation in TMAs and smart commute type programs, commuter programs. Again, that soft side is important. Promotion and education, important as well. And then finally, tax and financial incentives to support cycling. In the US, at the federal level, they have tax incentives to support people that want to ride their bicycles to work. There's some unique cases of employers actually paying their people to ride their bicycles to work. This is the exception today, but I would say that over time, more and more employers will be doing this kind of thing. So a couple real quick case studies. This is the project that was briefly mentioned this morning. It's an individualized social marketing type project. It was run through Translink here in Vancouver. And basically, it was part of this something called the Urban Transportation Showcase program that the federal government supported. But there's great payback in the investment that was made in this program. We need more programs like this across the country, especially in some of our largest cities. Just a little plug for my employer, Town of Markham. Certainly wouldn't consider ourselves a bicycle-friendly community. In fact, When I first started there in 2002, I think the car was the king, was sort of the mantra. One of the first people I reached out to at that time was the Director of Public Affairs for the Southern Ontario Club of the CAA. And he and I used to have some great breakfast chats and just help us position this idea around mobility choices and options. And really, it's not about, what car versus other modes. It's really a complementary nature, but understanding how people move around the city, their needs as opposed to the needs of engineers and planners and so on. So in a place like Markham, we have all of these land development sort of requirements in place. So conditions of approval, we meet on a regular basis with developers to include these elements into a lot of their commercial and multi-residential type developments. And in the beginning, I have to admit, there was some pushback. Today, not so much. But it's something that we need to sort of keep vigilant on, especially with that community, understanding their needs, and we're doing more work like that in Toronto, meeting with developers and their agents, their engineers, and their planners as well. Cycling pathways and master plans. These are important, but anybody can write a master plan. Only a few cities can implement them very, very successfully and effectively, and that was the message that we sent to our council. And so we translated our 30-year, $60 million pathway cycling vision into a more manageable 5-year program. And that's something that they bought into in December. It's a $20 million program, and it's something that we can roll out again over the next 5 or 6 years. Focusing on different events, instruction programs. We've got a great initiative happening in Markham where we've been working with high school youth, training them to become cycling instructors, and then they in turn work with the elementary school. So these are the kinds of things that are happening at the community level. And then finally, just support and encouragement for municipal employees. Okay, so we'll turn the page and look at the business case really for the private sector on this. And in meeting with employers across the GTA in places like Markham, we've understood that they're interested in reducing operating costs. Their parking costs them a lot of money. If they can reduce parking, that's an important thing. There's an understanding around work-life balance with their employees. So they're trying to create a healthier sort of workplace. That satisfaction, that employee satisfaction is important. Retention and recruitment. If you can set yourself apart from other employers in terms of supporting something like an employee riding their bicycle to work, maybe you'll retain them longer. Improving that corporate environmental performance, the visibility as a good corporate citizen, and again, environmental and social responsibilities. And what was really fascinating in 2002 when we started stakeholder discussions around the formation of what we call the Transportation Management Association, the bureaucrats like myself and others sat back and said, well, the business guys aren't going to be too interested in the environment, so we better really upplay the parking savings and all of these other elements. And when we started the discussion, put our slides up and started it in that direction, a couple of the key players, a lot of the large landowners and some of the hotel operators in the area put up their hands and says, I'm here because of the environment. I want to do something positive for our community. So that was an important lesson for us. And I just want to give a plug to Bikeonomics there. Ellie Blue's got a great blog happening right now on www.grist.org, and it's all about how employers can help their employees get to work by bicycle, and just the economic considerations around cycling in our communities. Okay, so how's it being supported? Again, nurturing that kind of culture, that leadership position is very important. And that little picture there in the center is our former mayor, Mr. Don Cousins. On the end is MP John McCallum. He's actually one of the Liberals that did get in the GTA. And in the middle of that picture is the Canadian president of Pfizer Pharmaceuticals. And this was their launch in Markham a few years ago. And you'll see they're all on bicycles. Pfizer, the pharmaceutical company, makes that link. They provide bicycles for their employee at their location. The challenge is there's not a whole lot of places to ride, but we're working on that. Okay, so a couple of case studies from the Vancouver area, and I want to thank Deming Smith from Vancouver Coastal Health, who helped me out with some of the programming that's happening at their locations. So they have a commuter center at Vancouver Coastal Health. They provide staff with access to all the different travel options that are available. It's information and support for employees that are interested in cycling. Multiple secure bike lock-up cages, important. Provision of car share vehicles. So one of the #1 things is, I would ride my bike, I would take transit, but when I do get to work and I do need a vehicle, how am I going to get around? The provision of these shared type services or shared vehicles is important. And then they're doing the free of charge, cycling instruction, maintenance workshops provided by Vancouver Area Cycling Coalition. They have a mobile van that provides service for their employees, and they participate regularly in Bike to Work Week. Now, I did ask about some of the metrics around their mode share in terms of cycling versus the background levels. What Deming's shared with me is that that's something that they are working on, and hopefully that's something that we'll be able to report even at Velo-city 2012 or sooner. Another case study. This one I had some help with this by Joanne Woodall. She's with with Translink here in Vancouver, and Translink is also one of the board members of ACT Canada. So at SAP Canada, I think they're in the Yaletown area. They have 2 secure bike storage rooms, the bike stand for maintenance, access to shower and change rooms, and the list is there. What's important to note is that they're supporting their employees. Very, very few employers across the country are doing this. And so these companies that stand out, they need to be recognized in the beginning. They need to be rewarded. But clearly we need to be doing more of this as we go through. And then finally, the point that they're making, no staff parking offered at all. So if you want to bring your car to their location, you have to pay for it, but they do provide transit discounts. And then finally, case study around Nortel. This is Nortel in Ottawa, obviously not the same company it was 10 years ago when this program started. However, one of the things that's important to note is that there were a fair bit of studies that were conducted at Nortel, and one of the conclusions they came to is that they doubled the mode share at that work site versus the background level in Ottawa. So that's important. And just that regular promotion, that soft side of things is important, but without the whole networks, without those interconnected cycling facilities like we've been hearing about all day, all of this will not get you to where we want to go. Oops. And then finally, I just want to just make a point around how cycling is being integrated into public travel management information systems. There's a way to find bike buddies through these carpool type ride matching systems. So if your mode is by bicycle, a lot of people don't feel comfortable in the beginning riding their bicycles to work. So pairing them up with a bike buddy or a mentor that way is really important. It's shown that it gets people over that initial hurdle that they might have, that apprehension, how to get organized. So these things are important to do. And then finally, just a plug for Google bike directions. That's something that's relatively new in the Canadian context, and I think we'll be seeing more and more of information technology supporting various mobility options, also cycling. And finally, a plug for the upcoming Sustainable Mobility Summit. See, I'm still saying TDM. It's tough to lose that handle after 10 years. It's happening at the end of October. Again, Translink is the local host. There'll be daily workshops, professional development sessions. There's a dedicated cycling stream. Mr. Becker's part of our program committee, and we saw this as a great lead into the wonderful Velo-city conference that'll be happening here in 2012, and special planning sessions, how this is being integrated into health and so on, and you can learn more about it at www.actcanada.com. And with that, thank you.
Welcome to the French part of the program. That's a joke. And sorry also for the title of my presentation. I'm a very bad student, so I had that title in mind. And what what I will do is try to link as much as I can the little story of our organization to the benefits related to the economy or to the land use and things like that. So, you know, maybe a few of you have been raised on the street like that, you know. Not with this kind of houses. It was I was in a small village, but I mean the street was the place we were playing, and in every family picture there were bicycles everywhere, and but we were not really expecting that. And I'll go fast because you know Gil talked about that in his presentation, but hopefully. We're coming back to, I think, to better days, at least in our major cities. When you see New York City changing like that, you can, or Paris or London, Montreal, Vancouver, you can see that it's possible to make changes. So it's possible to make changes, but we have to do the work politically and in terms of planning to do the facilities and to make the spaces available. So I will present you a few things about the organization that I'm involved with and what principles have guided our work over the years. So the organization had been founded in 1967, and at that time it was really how do you say that, kind of demonstration organization to show that we were needed spaces for cyclists. And over the years, that mobilization has led to the creation of a big ride, which is called the Tour de l'Île, that will happen within 2 weeks. It happens every year in the beginning of June, and it's part of the Montreal Bike Fest. And I link that with economic benefit because over the work that we've done, we've been able to mobilize the public sector, the municipalities, the provincial government, and also the private sectors with major sponsorships for these kind of events. La Maison des Cyclistes is our headquarters, where we have, the movie doesn't work, and we employ 90 people year-round working on the different programs that we have. So there's the association part, the publishing, the events, and the travels division. So the event, as the Tour de l'Île was created in 1985, was a way to bring people on their bicycles. I agree that we need facilities, we need infrastructure in the cities, but sometimes when I travel in the United States, you know, billions and billions of dollars have been spent over the years with fantastic facilities, but there are few people on their bikes. So I think facilities are important, but also opportunities for people to be on their bicycles are a good way to promote the use of the bicycles. Our travels division is something more recreational. We bring 6,000 people traveling all over the world, and I think it's another way to bring people to commute and to get used to bicycle, not only in travels but also in the daily use. Publishing, I go fast on different magazines and brochures and guides. And the way we're involved also in sustainable mobility is the way we are working with transit authorities, with big enterprises. Lorenzo was talking about mobility plan for companies and things like that. We're involved in that kind of activities, and also it's a way to make things possible and to help to do the mode shift. With the kids, it's another thing. We see over the past 15 years, we saw a dramatic change in transport patterns. More and more children are driving to school. Traffic jams happen at the school doors. So car is fun and it's useful, but we see that at some stage it's become how do you say that? The car is going against itself. So we have to find other ways to help kids to be more independent in their travels. The few principles that we have to look at it. First, the bicycle is part of transportation system. So today I'm very glad to hear what I've heard, except a couple of remarks that you can imagine. You can imagine. You know, for me, a customer in a store is not necessarily someone who arrives with 4 wheels and an engine. And you know, a customer is a person, and the way he moved to the store or to the school or to the office, it's another thing. So bicycle is part of the transit system, the transportation system, and it won't solve all the problems, the bicycle by itself, but it can help to be part of the solution. You see the B.E.S.T program that will be its 3rd year this year in Montreal, the 1st year in Toronto. Even Montreal was a very bicycle-friendly place. With the B.E.S.T, we saw a dramatic change because we saw a new type of cyclist coming on the street. Bicycle is popular. Bicycle is popular, so that means for me that bicycle is for everyone, not only big man, strong man, sporting, young, old, ladies, men. Bicycle is for everyone. And as soon as we improve the environment, bicycle is possible. If we keep the road and the street like they are, maybe only the young and strong cyclists will remain on their bicycles. More bikeways, more cycles, more cyclists, and safer cyclists. Someone this morning was talking about safety by numbers, and we can verify that in the province of Quebec. Since the end of the 80s, we saw a major increase in the bicycle network. We saw the increase in the popularity, the use of the bicycle. Every 5 years, we measure that. And we actually, this coming Friday, we will release the 2010 edition of the survey that we entitled Bicycle in Quebec. Every 5 years, so we do a picture with the big surveys, countings, and things like that. And so since the end of the 80s, we saw a progression. The popularity of bicycle has doubled, and the number of crashes, accidents, important and light accident has decreased as the same proportion at least. Infrastructure, we talk about that a lot today, but I think it's still important to have that in mind. Infrastructure is the key. The problem is when we are in the city cores, it's not always easy in terms of political decision, but what we've noticed, for example, in Montreal is you have few complaints, and after, people are, it's part of the environment. They used to it. If some car drivers are jammed because of here on the left side, they just do that last fall. So they remove a lane of traffic in a viaduct, and nobody complains because it was already jam at rush hour, so there was no change at the end. When we're talking about cities, but we're talking about rural areas. We didn't talk much about this. I will go through the fast with the Route Verte project a little bit later. The tools, so the guidelines, we have all the technical devices that can help to do good planning, and I think we have to use it. The survey I was talking about just before. Create opportunities. So I was talking about the Tour de l'Île or the night tour or other events, and the animation around bicycle, I think it's really important. Important to bring new people on their bicycle. Important to bring the authorities, because you can imagine that's a Tour de l'Île. It takes 1 year to prepare and to be sure that the route of the event will be accepted by the boroughs and the center city and the police department. So it takes a year of work. So as soon as you talk to someone at the city of Montreal about Le Tour de l'Île, they know what is Le Tour de l'Île, you know, because they hear about that all year round, even in January and December. And we always, as an organization, we had always that dream of, you know, having a large network of bike paths all over the province. And in 1994, we had the opportunity to present an idea which was called La Route Verte, part of a plan that we already began to work on. And we succeed to convince the provincial government to go ahead in that plan. The idea was to link the region with a continuous bikeway from city to city. So it's important to talk also from the city to city, because it's a way also that we organize transportation on bicycle. And because when we don't have nothing, it's when we have conflict with cars, between cars and cyclists. When it's not well defined, when it's confusing, when it's not signed. So bicycle is there trying to cope with traffic, trying to cope with cars, and it's really tough. So in 1996, the picture was that one, and over the years, with special funding, special programs that have been created, we've been involved with the financial support of the Ministry of Transport to develop a 4,000-kilometer network all over in all the region of Quebec, linking all the major towns and cities. And the route have been inaugurated in 2007. Off-road on 40% of the route, and 60% on regional routes with paved shoulders or local streets in villages, or with signage, but very simple. Partnership to do that kind of thing. Partnership with planning authorities throughout the province, but also with business. One of the lead reason for the government to invest that was business, was good for regional business. Of course, when we're talking about it, it's harder to say that, for example, La Route Verte on the island of Montreal give millions of benefits or spendings a year. It's tough to qualify in a big city. When you're in a region or at a smaller scale, it's a lot easier, because in many small places, they just began with that kind of facility to see people coming for days, for a few days, for holidays, and it contributes to stimulate the local economy. So you see that over 15 years, $40 million have been spent to develop the facilities, both by provincial government and local authorities, municipalities. And what we've noticed over the year with surveys and studies with economic specialists is a yearly spending of $134 million a year by users. So it's good for the economy. Still challenges. Of course, there's still challenges, because this is a daily picture here in Vancouver or in Montreal or in Toronto. I mean, sometimes it's not so bad, but sometimes there's need to have better facilities. If we want to bring more and more people, it's the key to do bicycle facilities, segregated path. It's the way we help people to get on their bicycle. I'm really glad of the invitation to come here because, and I think it's a very good initiative from the CAA to begin that kind of discussion. And I'm happy also to say that in Quebec we began a collaboration last year with CAA Quebec. Last year we began a series of chronicle on daily newspaper. And this year we began a collaboration with our travels. We collaborate in organizing travels and selling our travels package, and also in a campaign that will begin within 2 weeks on the TV, on Radio-Canada TV, Share the Road campaign with this kind of visual material. There will be a 30-second advertising, and so we've been able to convince the CAA, the Ministry of Transport, and 7 municipalities throughout the province to put money in a small campaign for this year, but it's the first one, and we look forward for next year campaign already. So the association in the travel sector with touring and I was talking briefly about the B.E.S.T. B.E.S.T, you know, it's a England magazine which was talking about the arrival of B.E.S.T in London and describing that as something which brings new people, not necessarily lycra cyclists on the city, but ordinary people, you know, business people in downtown Montreal or downtown London, ordinary people that begin to discover that new way of transportation. And it's amazing because I sometimes I meet people who said, oh, I have my yearly subscription. I take B.E.S.T and match that with the subway and buses, and so now it's part of the transit, the transportation offer. And probably the next step with B.E.S.T will be to integrate that with the transit offer and transit authorities. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and we'd also like to thank the CAA for putting on this workshop. I think it's just fantastic. And on behalf of the host organizing team, and of which many are here today, by the way, and maybe you want to stand up so people can see you, we would like to invite you next year to our conference, the Velo-city Global 2012, and join the other 1,000 or so people that will be coming to Vancouver to have a dialogue on cycling. And we hope that some of the dialogue that you see here today will be continued then, as well as that will happen with Act Canada this fall. Green button, all right, and we're set. The images you're going to see here, and I hope this works, were taken in a small town called Saint-Raymond-de-Portneuf, about 60 kilometers north of Quebec City, which is located on the fantastic La Route Verte. And it shows a person walking from doing his business at the post office, walking with his cane to his bicycle, and then off he cycled to the grocery store to do his shopping. If you fast forward this 12, 15 years from now, you'll most probably see me going down and picking up my electric-assisted tricycle, work my way up the garage levels onto the roads of downtown Peninsula here in Vancouver on my way to do my daily shopping. Sorry. Street traffic is so important to retailers. If there is traffic on the street, then there's an opportunity for the retailers to convert the street traffic into store traffic and then into sales. For purpose of discretionary shopping, car traffic is very hard to stop and have motorists come into the stores. Street speed is too fast for inducing a shopping feeling. Just look at the effects of what happened on Danforth in Toronto. Car parking is usually not readily available in front of a retail store and maybe several blocks away. That is everyday reality on a shopping street. Parking may be far enough away from where the driver decides to forget about the discretionary purchase and decides to go to the suburb mall instead. Cycling provides a convenience while providing a means of also taking home one's shopping. Some form of parking is usually found within easy distance of a store. Cycling at speed is more conducive to looking at the stores and stopping for discretionary shopping. Retailers should be thrilled with the thoughts of bike corrals in front of their stores. Instead of one parking spot occupied by one potential shopper, now a retail store is exposed to higher street traffic with 10 to 14 potential cycling shoppers. As a bonus, these shoppers have more money available for spending on purchase or in other local services, including the hospitality trade. For each trip, a cyclist has an additional $7.50 available for shopping. The cost of transportation for a cycling shopper is much lower than driving a car to a store. No need to pay for parking, motor fuel, and car maintenance. The appeal of cycling shopping increases to retailers if the shopper has moved totally away from driving to cycling or combining cycling and transit. Now there's about an additional $30 a day available each day for more shopping or for some other special purpose. Getting to the store is a great social experience. Dr. Kay Teskey's Cycling and City Survey indicated there are a significant number of people who would cycle for their transportation needs if only the road system were to their liking, and that is about 31%, of which today 12% cycle at least once a month. High in the list of needs are separation, increased visibility of cyclists to motorists at intersections. Focusing on streetscape and enhancing the cycling experience to get to the store is a way for increasing retail activities along the street. Speed of neighborhood car traffic is a significant factor. As pedestrians, we know how we value separation from faster mode of travel. The same holds for cycling. Shopping areas adjacent or within easy distance of cycling facilities helps one decide where to go for one's shopping needs. In Europe, from towns and from small to large cities, highly visible cycling facilities bring shoppers to the shopping area core. These sometimes include separation of cyclists from other traffic. For bringing in customers who want to cycle there, a direction has been taken by some shopping centers to provide cycling lanes on their property connecting to convenient and highly visible bike parking on shopping malls. Two examples are highlighted here. If I click, they will be highlighted. Well, they're not. Sorry, don't know if I can go back. Anyhow, they're supposed to be highlighted here. One is the shopping mall outside of the city core in Copenhagen. The other is from a suburban mall adjacent to the Interstate Highway 95 east of Spokane. As we know, shopping areas compete with curling and hockey rinks, and Tim Horton as places where people can engage for social experiences. In fact, in Europe, from small to large municipalities, shopping streets are enhanced to be people streets. These people streets provide connectivity to stores and to places of business of all sizes and lines of business, from the specialty stores to the mass merchandisers. These highly popular streets provide passes for pedestrians, shoppers, cyclists, sometimes transit, delivery vehicles, and local residents at low speed, usually 20 kilometers an hour or less. I hope this is right, yeah. These streets provide room for people to stop and enjoy life. Transportation demand methodologies are used. Frequently, these streets are open to all traffic until 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning. Automatic bollards are frequently used to control access. This is all good, but there has to be a reason to going to shopping there. The business must appeal to cyclists. If businesses are going to be successful over the long term, their marketing approaches along with their goods and service offerings for sale will need changing and adopting with time as consumers' taste and mobility changes. This is especially true for downtown areas, which may see significant population growth, especially residential growth. If stores do not offer something distinctive, they can go shopping. Why then go shopping there? Especially with stores located in the downtown area. Why not just go to stores closer to home in suburban malls and shopping areas? Shopping traffic on street is all important to retailers. Transit, cycling, and walking are much more flexible in helping increasing the traffic. With increase in cycling traffic comes new opportunities. With movement to cycling and combining cycling and transit, new business opportunities appear. As cycling traffic grows, so does retailing and bike stores. However, other opportunities also become viable, including specialized business operations. Take a look at the delivery systems. One area undergoing development is the courier business. Some mail and delivery services have expanded the capacity of the mail person to carry the cargo. Some retail operations have returned to the way of providing home deliveries of the 50s and before using cargo bikes. Other retailers have moved beyond their normal home delivery services and their offering of take-it-home-yourself truck rental programs on the parking lot and are offering a cycling delivery options. Public bike systems and bike share provide new mobility options which extend one's shopping area, conveniently and time efficient without the bother of moving one's motorized vehicle and finding a new parking spot. Bike share provides the linearity of trips with transit. It also helps getting tourists to the stores. For maximizing the benefits of bike share in the community and for retailers, high quality cycling infrastructure is needed, including separations of cyclists and motorists. Bike stations. As shoppers become more of a cycling activity, a place to leave one's bike and be comfortable that it will be there in cyclable condition when one returns becomes more important. Safe parking for bicycles will be in demand while cyclists are shopping at multi-locations. What else will be in demand is a place to leave one's purchases while the shopping trip continues. In Seville, they've initiated an effort called Bus Bike, where you actually purchase a ticket for the trip, not for a mode of transportation. And part of the trip you will take the bus, and part of the trip you will take a bike to your place of work, and in the evening you will return it back to the stations. We're seeing bike kitchens of one form or another developing along bike paths and other forms, where the repair facility for cycling comes to you. We shouldn't neglect also that we have an interesting industry developed here in Vancouver over the years, which is part of our recycling program. These are the binners. Frequently I see a couple go out every morning with one of their bikes to collect the bottles and take them back. Some days they use this type of bike, another day they have electrical assisted bicycle as part of their freight network. And on it goes. We are seeing the revitalization of the farmers market, and as a big part of that is the fact that there's bike parking there, and a lot of the customers come with their bikes. Now for some observations, which unfortunately I haven't got here. Cycle will make a greater contribution to the retail activities in local economy if people sense a comfortable and perceived safe way to get to their stores. And a lot of times that includes separation of others. People can have options for trips. Combining mobility options are important with cycling and transit. And in the case of Calgary, you can very effectively see that they also combine driving and cycling as well as a way of not having to pay the high cost of parking, and a cycle will last 6 or 7 kilometers to work. People can relax and enjoy themselves when shopping. People's streets are open up to walking and cycling, limiting car movements. So in an environment where people feel comfortable, then the local economy will benefit. Jean-François commented about the cycling touring business, which happens in small towns and large cities. And certainly as a person who does a lot of touring, I can vouch that we leave a lot of money behind. Thank you very much.